You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network.
Hey Ramblers! Today's episode is brought to you by Fangoria. Since 1979, Fangoria has been the authority in the world of contemporary horror. As the only sanctuary for horror aficionados in its early days, it has now grown into an empire that expands beyond its celebrated magazine. From t-shirts, coffee mugs, beanies, enamel pins, there's something for every horror fanatic in your world, even if it's you. So head on over to shop.fangoria.com/pencil and paper productions or use code pencil and paper productions at checkout to get 20% off your first order or magazine subscription. Yes, it is a mouthful, which is why there are links in the show notes down below. That's shop.fangoria.com/pencil and paper productions or code pencil and paper productions at checkout for 20% off. Fangoria, first in fright since 1979.
Try it or we'll tear your soul apart.
You're listening to the Horror Ramblings podcast, the show about all things horror. We hope you enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the hallowed halls of horror. You guys are not gonna believe it. I'm just so excited today, Steven. I want to jump right in. You know what my favorite film franchise is of all time, and if I have to say it, I don't want to spoil anything. And right before we started, I told you about an idea that I thought would have been so cool if it would have happened back when the movies first came out. But we'll get into that because that's going to be a fun little tidbit, I think. But I am just so excited. We have such a fantastic guest, and I'm horrible with words. I'm a little starstruck today, and that doesn't happen often. I'm so happy that he came on to the show. Steven, if you want to do what you do best, you are so good at introductions. Let the people know who's joining us today.
Well, Ramblers, joining us today in the hallowed halls of horror is an actor, director, writer whose literary works include Seven Maids from Stockbridge, The Secret Weapon, The Adventures of Nedu, and his most recent release, Socrates, which follows a group of college students who are responsible for unleashing a deadly spirit housed in an unsuspecting African gray parrot. This Georgia native has writing credits that extend beyond books, having written for film and television, and even winning a Cable Ace Award for his work on the Disney Channel film On Promised Land, which also netted him a nomination for the Humanitas Prize, which honors screenwriters whose work exemplifies art while exploring the nuances of the human condition. Along with being a man of the screen, he is also a talented thespian of the stage, having written and performed in several plays that have garnered him even more deserved praise and awards. Not rewards, maybe rewards, I don't know. I got tongue-tied. But it's his work in film and television where people might know him best. From guest appearances on hit shows such as Martin, The Bernie Mac Show, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, My So-Called Life, and Night Court, not the new Night Court, the old Night Court, because everything's remade nowadays, to roles in such films as Rosewood, Intolerable Cruelty, Project X, and The Next Big Thing, but our audience would know him best as the quick-tempered but courageous and lovable Roland Kincaid from A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 and 4. We are excited to welcome to the show the old man brave enough to goad Freddy Krueger, even if it didn't work out for him in the end. Please welcome Ken Sagoes.
Thank you.
You are very welcome, sir.
I'm happy to be here. And that introduction, I was wondering who you was talking about.
I mean, everything that I read, everything seems to be all those details. It's fantastic. Fantastic work that you've been doing over the years.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
And
I'm very ecstatic to be here.
Well, we are very honored that you took our invitation to be on the show because, as Les said, he is a huge Nightmare on Elm Street fan. I'm sure it's on his bucket list to meet every single person in every film, and now we've got another on the list to mark off.
And you hold a special place in my heart from those films, and we will definitely get into that. But Kincaid was always a character that really helped me out. So
I would like to start off by saying I am who I am because of people like you. So I am, now you may say starstruck, but I am fan struck time I meet someone because, and I do appreciate it. So that's so very important to me because, so many times celebrities come and they talk and they make you feel like they're so special, but at the end of the day, you're the one that's special because you all had the power to make me who I am. And I am sincerely grateful for that.
And I love that mindset because we've discussed on the show before. We'll leave names out today, but we have discussed on the show before meeting certain celebrities that you look at and you meet and like, man, I grew up with that guy. I'm so excited to meet him, and they're just not that keen on meeting you, or at least they don't seem to be, and it's disappointing because, as you said, this is we are attached to your characters, who you are, and
Yeah.
then we do get starstruck because we see you all the time because we rewatch these movies over and over and over, and then when we finally get a chance to meet you, to find out that some person is just like, I don't really care about you, it hurts, because those characters mean so much. So when people like you come around and you embrace us as fans, that just makes us feel all the more special, like everything that we've loved all this time meant something, not just to you but to us ourselves. So
And I would like to add that and you say embrace you as fans, but embrace you as, the reason I am who I am. So, and I have to honor that and I appreciate that. If I'm flying, to know that how strong your wind is in pushing me up.
right.
And you see, whoever those people you're talking about, if you can also let that fan go and they fall right back on their ass. So
Mhm. I agree. Now,
so yes, thank you.
I'd actually like to start all this off by talking about Kincaid, since we're already kind of in it, because as Les said, he's a fan. I'm a fan. Nightmare 4 was probably the first Nightmare movie I actually owned on VHS. I probably bought it, I feel like it was at Walmart when I was like 8 or 9 or something like that, and so I watched it quite a bit. So I knew your character from part 3. I'd seen that one. And so seeing you return along with Joey and Kristen and those characters, I felt like I had a connection to them just as much as I had the new kids coming in. So you were always kind of there. You were always that character that I'd see again and again and again because I wore that tape out. And so I loved your character so much. And I guess what I wanted to say or even ask you about it is, do you think that the character's lasting impression with fans is a result of just the franchise, or do you think it's the way the character was written and then performed by you?
I think it has a lot to do with everything. I don't think that you can put one paintbrush on one campus. That category. I think it had a lot to do with why people loved Kincaid. It's because they could relate to Kincaid. I think Kincaid, his power, like he said, was strength. And that was something that anybody could get. Now, they can't get the wizard like the magic and all those things, jumping around and everything, but strength. And I think with anybody, if you push them in the corner where they don't have anywhere else to go, they're going to come back stronger than where they went. And I believe that, one of the reasons that Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Warriors was so popular, because it had a lot of variables in there. It had something in there about, the disability. It had something in there about minorities. It had something in there about unity and everything, about drugs, about homelessness. It had everything involved in there, something that everybody could relate to. And it had nothing to do with race. It had nothing to do with any of that, because I got letters and still do get letters from Japan, Europe, Spain, letters that I can't read. I have to have someone to translate for me. So I think that's what my character represented, something that they could relate to.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you were getting letters from different languages and how that worked out. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, there was one time a Kincaid fan club in Taiwan, and, but Kincaid was popular everywhere. And I think one of the reasons that people loved Kincaid is because he was one of the first people to fight back at Freddy.
Yeah.
Not just physically, but with words. He could go head to head with him with the quickness and the words, and stuff like this here. Ideally, I know there was some thought that they was going to bring Kincaid back and he was going to go head to head with Freddy Krueger. I would have loved to see more of that.
For sure, because I was going to ask you about that too. Did you happen to know if Kincaid was going to die when you took the role in part 4? Like, did they tell you that up front, or was that something you found out?
As a black actor, normally we get killed
Sure.
quickly. When I first got the script, I kept looking and looking, and I said, "Oh shit!" Then I made a mistake. But originally Kincaid was a white character, and they decided to change him black, and I got lucky enough. Who, by the way, I didn't want to audition for the role, and so I got the role because of my attitude, what happened to have been the attitude that they wanted for Kincaid. And so when I got part 4, I knew that it was time. And so I didn't think it was going to be that quick though.
Yeah.
So, because at the time that we was doing part 4, that was during the time that there was a writer's strike.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
They didn't actually have a full script for us to see. It was almost a little improv. So they got a script. The writers settled their agreement. I think it was about a week before we started shooting. So then that's when we got an actual script.
So, I mean, you mentioned like the writer's strike and all that. I guess I want to kind of touch on that for a moment because, like, you being kind of you work, like I said, in film and television, doing some writing gigs and stuff like that. How did you feel about the writer's strike, the most recent one, when they were trying to get the renegotiations, all the AI stuff? Like, how does that make you feel as far as a writer?
As a writer, I'm for it. I was for it. And I still don't believe or feel that we got a decent deal. And you got to realize that I know they say Writers Guild and SAG that they're a union. They're not a full union. They're a guild. So on paper, they're a guild. So it was only so much that they could do. Because if it was a Writers Guild union, they could have shut everything down in one day, and we could have ended that strike in 2 or 3 days. Same way with the SAG. It's Screen Actors Guild. The key words is guild. If there was a full union, they would have said nobody worked. That means that when you watch the news, you couldn't see the broadcasters because they all are governed under AFTRA. Soap operas continued to work while we was on strike. So there was a lot going on there. We got some things, but me personally, I think that we still didn't get it the way that we should have.
Right. Do you feel like either, since because you're kind of a rare exception in Hollywood that would be able to be on both sides of the picket line with SAG and the Writers Guild. So was there a difference in either of the strikes that you felt that maybe one got a better deal over the other, or do you feel like they were both?
I think they both got basically the same deal for what they stood for.
Okay.
I don't know I don't think that we got a great deal. I think we got the best deal that we could get at the moment.
Okay.
Because you have to just think about it. We was going into the Christmas holidays. So then I think that they did things very wisely. They waited to the holidays, and then they settled with the Directors Guild, and then they settled with the Writers Guild. So that left the actors that we was out there by ourselves, and people was losing money. They was losing their houses. They was having to move out of their apartments. So we had started being looked at as the villains that was holding people up. So they had to do something. I'm not saying I agree with everything that we got. I think, like I said, I think we got the best that we could have gotten at the moment. I wish that we could have gotten a little more. That AI thing scares me.
Yeah.
It truly scares me. And I didn't really feel it until I started doing my short film and realizing what I want to do for my short that I have coming up, Socrates, and because I'm doing the voice.
Oh.
I did a teaser. I've worked on a teaser for the short film, and the guy who was doing the voice for me, technical voiceover, he changed my voice a little bit. It's still my voice,
Mm-hmm.
but he changed it, and that's when I realized, and I said, "Oh wow!" Now because it's my short film, I own it. But what happens out there when someone else owns that voice? Because I do have a southern swing about with my voice, and so they sometimes they say it's unique with that little high pitched voice, that cartoon voice. But see, they can take my voice and they can manipulate it,
Yeah,
send it everywhere, and there's nothing I can do about it.
that's true. I mean, today is the worst AI will be until
Yeah,
tomorrow, and then
you
it'll
know,
just continue to get better.
you
So,
can get that. So
Les, I have like a barrel of questions I'm going to go down. So before I get too far off from Nightmare, if you want to slam him with anything Nightmare related.
I had a few things that I wanted to say because I never really thought I would have the opportunity to say these things to you. One thing I want to start by saying is it doesn't surprise me that they hired you because you had the Kincaid attitude, because seeing you on screen, you could just tell that it was natural, that it was just naturally you. And Nightmare on Elm Street to me, it holds a special place in my heart for the simple fact that when I was a kid, I was terrified of any and everything you could think of. And uh, I happened to stumble upon Dream Warriors by accident. And, Freddy was a scary guy, but you have all these amazing characters, and you in particular. The thing I loved about Kincaid was that you could tell Kincaid was afraid at certain moments. You could tell that he was scared, but true bravery is doing it even though you're afraid. And to me, Kincaid just personified that so well. And I just want to say thank you to that, because you helped a 6-year-old kid who snuck into his front room and watch a horror movie not feel so afraid of the world. So I want to start off by just saying thank you for that from the bottom of my heart.
and I thank you because I know in the past, for the people who don't know, in the past 2 or 3 weeks, we've been going back and forth with these emails and everything. And thank you for not giving up on me to be here. And that meant a lot. You could have easily said, let's go to somebody else, but you didn't. You waited for me and you worked it out for me. And I'm happy that I'm here. So
Having you on this show is a dream. But before I ramble off too much, I had a few more things that I just wanted to kind of ask you as well. And I know you mentioned you would have been interested in seeing Freddy and Kincaid face off again. I know legacy sequels are a very popular thing. They did it with the Halloween franchise. I know Robert Englund is a little bit older now. He's said that he's done playing Freddy. But just out of curiosity, if they were to somewhere along the way announce that they wanted to do a legacy sequel and erase part of the timeline, Kincaid never died, and you as you are now, an older version of Kincaid facing off against Freddy, is that something that you would love to just entertain, something that you would be interested to see?
first of all, as an actor, yes, yes. But I mean, I'm old now. Well, I'm seasoned now. I put it that way.
Season, there you go.
What am I gonna do? Come in, and I would love to, but I know they keep doing all these remakes and all things like that. So I would love to see if they're going to do Dream Warriors, right? I think what would be really, really great if they did the Dream Warriors and they brought all the Dream Warriors, the original Dream Warriors back and made us the parents of the present Dream Warriors.
I like that.
Instead of having what's good, I may write that. But instead of having, the big conference room where we all sitting around together talking, that they could have a room where all the parents are sitting around talking about those their children. And so that would be a wonderful cameo, I think. I just came up with that. I may want to write that and send it to them.
You might want to.
Yeah. Yes, of course, if they had some way to bring me back, and we could do that, and Robert would do that. I think it would make a lot of money, but I don't know if I can finagle all the things that Kincaid did. I think I can,
Sure.
but the answer in short is yes, I would love it.
Now, speaking of ideas, I'm gonna toot my own horn for a minute. I do consider myself an idea guy. Actually, the reason Steven and I started this show was because of a nightmare script that I had worked on several years ago.
Yeah.
But I won't get into the details of that. But I was thinking honestly today about Dream Warriors and about Kincaid, and something that really resonated with me was in this movie they build a great backstory for all of these kids.
Yeah.
Kincaid and all of the other kids. They build this fantastic backstory. And one thing that I will say is I know a lot of the time now there are spin-offs of movies and they take particular characters and they do films just about them. I thought to myself that it would have been so interesting if in the 80s when this movie came out, if they would have done a spin-off series possibly and shown the life of all of the kids that became the Dream Warriors before they ended up at the hospital. I would have loved to have seen something like that happen, because knowing that Freddy was haunting all of these kids, to know what happened to all of them and what led there to Dream
Yeah.
Warriors, I think that would have been an interesting concept. So there's a question for you. If they were to do something like that, do you have any actors in mind that you would want to play a young Kincaid? And what kind of story do you think you would want them to sort of put out there for Kincaid?
Oh wow. As I never thought of that question, so great question. I would like to say that in the short Socrates that I'm trying to do, the young man that's playing the lead in that short in Socrates, I patterned him after Kincaid. And
Okay.
I believe that if I had my choice or thoughts, that's who I would rather see play me, because he's so I don't know if any of you all went and saw the order the book or something and you saw the video.
Mm-hmm.
That young man is who I think is a phenomenal actor, and he could have played me because on the set we bonded together and he got some of the mannerisms that I wanted. And I wrote this and that character based off Kincaid. And that's the way it's going to be in the film. It's like Kincaid is that character in the short film. So that's who I would see. When we shot the Dream Warriors, all of the younger actors was unknown. I was an unknown actor at the time. I had done one film, and they brought in name actors for the older roles. And so I help pattern what I'm doing now the same way. So that's who I would like to see do it, because I think it can do my character justice, it could do me justice, and it would be a wonderful legacy to pass on to someone.
Excellent. Do you have anything else, Les?
I could gush on for hours about Kincaid and Nightmare on Elm Street, so we'll move along a little bit. I'll sprinkle in some other things as we go.
Sure. I'm sure we'll probably come back around to it. I'm sure it won't be the last time. But Ken, I guess I wanted to rewind the clock a little bit and just kind of find out how you even got into the entertainment business in the first place. Like, was that something you had as a child that you wanted to be an actor, or was it just something that kind of came up later? Especially since you're a writer. I mean, that's actually where you got started, right? Is doing writing?
I was acting before then.
Okay.
I think, I came from a very small town outside of Atlanta, and we didn't have anything. We had we was really poor, only one O in the word poor, you know. So, and I used to dream a lot. I used to dream about things, and sometimes I remember as a kid to make my grandmama and grandfather and smile. I would pretend I'm certain things, and she used to laugh at it. And I was a big liar too. So, but and sometimes when I would go to school and come back and they would ask me what I was doing, I would act out what someone else had done. But I knew that I had done it. So And I think that was the beginning of my acting. You know, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed working. I enjoyed writing. I wrote my first short story when I was about 6 years old. So,
Hmm.
um, you know, and I still have it on paper. I still have
That's
it.
awesome.
Yeah.
So you practically had like a creative sensibility from, childhood, and it just kind of followed you into
Yes.
adulthood.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I just wish that, but everything happens in the time. I do believe spiritually, and I believe that God has a pass for everybody, and it happens at its due time. But I was in a very small town. We didn't even have a running water. We didn't even have electricity. So, you know, wasn't nothing else but to dream, you know.
Yeah.
But in school, then we started doing what they call pantomiming. They call it lip singing today.
Hmm.
So, and that's when I think I was on stage for the first time. Second grade, it's actually second grade.
And
So
just
y'all
caught the
asking
bug.
some. One of the reasons I'm loving this is because you're asking some questions that has never been asked before.
That's always my goal. I hope that we can always take the conversation in a way that you've never had it go
Yeah,
before,
yeah.
because people ask
So
the same questions here and there, but I'm
yeah,
hoping that we can get into the meat and potatoes of you as a person, and not just look at it's Kincaid, that's all we want to know about, and then send you on your way. I want to know you.
There's so much more to you than just Kincaid, just the characters that you've played or the things that you've written. There's a person that we want to get to know on a personal
I
level.
appreciate
So
that. I do appreciate that.
So
Yeah.
during my investigative studies, trying to figure out a little bit more about you, I came across a little detail that I wanted to just get a little bit more information about. That you studied under two entertainment legends, and the names might seem like two differing sides, but I think they're equally important. And that is Marlon Brando and Ed Cambridge. Now,
Yes.
how did you get involved with these two?
When I first came to California, you know, I didn't have money. I didn't have money to do anything. So the first thing I did, I got a job at Universal Studios where I worked as a security guard, and I was able to go through the stages and, you know, and get to watch the professional actors, the legends, all those who have passed on. And then a friend of mine had told me about Marlon Brando was looking for actors for his a project he was doing. And so I got to work under Marlon Brando and watch this brilliant man teach this workshop in a way that has never been taught before. And then Mr. Edmund J. Cambridge, who was a part of the Negro Ensemble Company in New York, and who had did a wave of plays in New York way before my time. And to be able to be in the company of this person and him teaching you. And I met Mr. Cambridge through Miss Marla Gibbs. I'm
Oh,
sure you know
nice.
Miss Marla Gibbs. And she had a school that was created by her daughter called the Crossroads Arts Academy. And so Miss Gibbs allowed me to take that class basically for free. And her words were to take it, but when you get to a point that you could give back, that was the pay. And so there I met Mr. Edmund J. Cambridge. I met several other actors there. I studied also under Telly Savalas School.
Oh, nice.
Kojak. I met Alfred Hitchcock. So
No
I got
kidding.
a chance to meet those legends, although I'm telling my age now. But I got a chance to meet the final years of some of those. And it was a really great moment. And then Joan Rivers
Oh,
sent me a letter. I don't know if you could see it. Joan Rivers sent me a letter. She saved my job at Universal.
wow.
She wrote me this letter years ago, and I always have this letter with me. And so I've been ordained, as you call it, by some of the great legends of yesterday. And their pay was, how I was to pay them back was to pass it on. So that's when I started my nonprofit organization where I called the Giving Back Corporation. So every time I do a film, or every time I do some project, I help some young person in their life, either with their education, their books, or send them to some account. So, I'm single, not no longer married, children gone, as you want to call it. But and so that's what I would like to do is give back and pass it forward. And so when you, the fans, support me and give me the opportunity to rise above, I pay back by giving back. And I couldn't do it without you.
See, that's beautiful. I wish more actors would have that same mindset that you do, because you took a lesson in life that was handed to you by some great people, and you found a way to make it work for others down the road. I mean, in such a big way. And that just shows your heart is just enormous.
Yeah.
So I love that.
And it's because let's go with just the three of us sitting right here. As much as you may not understand that you're giving back to me. You're this, like I said, this is the first time that I've been asked these questions. No disrespect to any other podcast, sure. But and this is not an interview. This is a wonderful conversation. I'm from the country, so I feel like we're just sitting on the porch having a conversation, eating some apple pie or something like that, whatever we ever eat. Drinking some lemonades, and no worries, except that, hey, when we get tired and we fall asleep.
That's right. I mean, you're speaking to a country raised boy. I'm up in Tennessee, so I understand full well what you're talking about.
What part of Tennessee?
I'm currently in Watertown. I grew up in a town called Brush Creek. It's about 50 minutes away from Nashville, so it's very, very rural.
Is that near the Blue Ridge Mountains?
No, that's a little bit farther east from where I'm at.
Yeah, because I remember when I was going to go to college, I was going to go to Young Harris College, which was in the Blue Ridge Mountain, which was right like on the borderline of Tennessee and everything. So, and yeah, I grew up all down in that region. But we didn't have no cell phones. We didn't have any of that. So
that's right.
Life communication was just life, and a contract was just a handshake. And we talked to people. Sometimes we talked at them, but at least you heard our voices. Now I don't text. I have 2 cell phones and no text.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with it. I know that some people just not in them, so it's fine. I wish I could get away from my cell phone every now and again. I'll set it aside in another room and just be like, I don't want to deal with that.
I feel like my life was a lot more simple before a cell phone. To be honest with you, if I could get away from it, I would.
It's not if I can get away; it's that when I choose to get away.
Yeah.
And that's so and I just choose to get away a lot more times. That's it. But that means that I don't know about you guys, but I'm alone now. I'm okay with where life is. If you're okay with where life is, that's a different thing. I enjoy what I'm doing. I enjoy. I look at life as a canvas, that you paint on, and even with my work, and I like to get up every day and paint on my canvas. Now you can give me some paint, you can give me some colors, and I can take those colors if I want to paint them on my canvas. That's what I want to do, but you can't take my brush.
That's right.
Yeah. And I think you have the same thing.
For sure.
Yeah.
So since we've kind of touched on how you kind of got into meeting certain people and the acting and kind of getting to know that, I kind of want to touch on your staff writing job over at Paramount, because I noticed that you did a little work over there. You were writing for shows like Laverne and Shirley, which kind of caught me off guard. I was like, really? You wrote some episodes for Laverne and Shirley? That was like, were there any others that you wrote for?
And so what you said, you old motherfucker. So I wrote some. I was sitting in on like Happy Days and sitting in on Joni Love Chachi. When I first went over to Paramount, I was to be on this show called Joni Love Chachi.
Mm-hmm.
Then that show was canceled, and so then that's when I migrated over to Laverne and Shirley. I started off as an apprentice writer, and then I got my first credits, and so that made me put me in the professional status. And then after that, I still loved my acting though. And then I wrote a movie for Disney, which I won Cable Ace, which is actually an Emmy.
That's true.
It's Cable Ace Emmy. It's just that at the time, Cable did not have a section for the Emmys. And so the Emmys brought them out and we was told that I could trade it in for an Emmy, but I didn't want that. So I have the last of the Cable Ace Award.
Yeah,
And
why would you trade that out? It doesn't make any sense.
but it was been a big statue, so I said, so no. So I would like to believe that this little country kid from the South who had no running water, couldn't have write a complete sentence, has now written a movie that the likes of Dane Joan Plowright is in. Do you
That's
know
right.
what stretch that is? Who was married to Sir Laurence Olivier, who was starring in my film, and a three-time Tony Award winning actress, Judith Ivory, and who I think is two of the most fabulous actors, black actors still of this time that's overlooked, which is Juanita Jennings and Carl Lumbly.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, one of the first appearances in that film was forgot his name, Wayne Brady.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah.
Wayne Brady, yeah.
Wow.
So, and to be able to say that I was a part of that, and not just a part of it, but the seed of that,
Yeah.
seed of that, and that's what's so important, the seed.
Yeah, Carl Lumley is probably one of my favorite actors. When I see him pop up somewhere, I'm like, oh, yeah, because he always owns the scene he's in. So I love when he pops up somewhere.
Yes.
Now, when you started the staff writing gig, was that just kind of a way to get your foot in the door, or were you, like, how did that exactly happen? Because if you were acting, like, what kind of made you lean toward that for a bit?
That was something I never applied for.
You just fell into it?
That was God working. What happened is that a good friend of mine who was an actor, we was doing these showcases where actors would perform a scene for industry talent, like casting directors, producers, and directors, maybe once a month. But there wasn't any projects out there for young black actors. So I decided to write my own. And I wrote a comedy scene, and it just so happened in the audience was a representative from Gary Marshall's office. And she saw that scene, and she went back to Gary Marshall's company and told them about me. And so it was one morning, Gary Marshall called me. I had just got off work, got home, and I was asleep. And I picked up the phone, and they said, "This Ken Sagoes?" And I said, "Yes." They said, "Could you hold please for Gary Marshall?" Now you got to realize, I'm thinking it's one of my friends back in Georgia playing a game on me, because we used to come home and watch Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley and all those days. And then, so I was half asleep, so I answered the phone. And he said, "How you doing?" And I said, "Oh, this is Gary." He said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, okay, Gary, can you hold on for a minute?" He said, "Yes." And I hung up on him. So, so I did not believe that was Gary Marshall calling me. And so I got a call back that said that's who it was. And fast forward, within 3 days later, I was walking into my office at Paramount as an apprentice writer.
It's hilarious. And you do a very good Gary Marshall, I must say.
I in my journey in life, I think because of my attitude, I've had some wonderful opportunities. And, I just, like, a lot of my jobs that I've gotten is because I just didn't want to believe that I could do it. And I just said what I wanted to say, and God bless. I never disrespected, though.
Yeah.
I never disrespected. I just didn't know.
So I want to bring up another sitcom that you might be surprised means a lot to me, but it was a show that I discovered in my teens because growing up, we didn't have a lot. We just had the basic channel, so we watched whatever. But by the time I reached high school, my dad decided, well, it's time we stepped up in the world, and we got a satellite dish, which I was like, fantastic, great, awesome. And then we got the cable channel, so finally getting to see shows that I never got to watch. And one that I discovered as a teenager during the summer is I would start scouring all these other networks that I'd never seen, looking for shows that we'd never watched. And I started watching What's Happening, and then found you on What's Happening Now, and it blew my mind because I was like, that's Kincaid! That's Kincaid! Oh my God! Because I'd never seen you in anything else up to that point, and then there you were. So how did you wind up on that show? Like that whole legacy of that show, because I know people don't talk about it today, but it's still important to me, and it's got to be important to other people.
What's happening now actually is between Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 and Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4.
All right.
That's what I did between those shows. And I think it was Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 that got me what's happening now. And here is why. Because when they was having the auditions for what's happening now, Nightmare on Elm Street came out and it was #1.
Oh.
It's #1. And so when I got the second call back, it was #1. I kept that #1. And then I guess they had saw what people was thinking about me.
Mm.
And when I got the final call back, it was down between Martin Lawrence and myself. And they only had one role. And they had brought it down between Martin Lawrence and myself. And when Martin Lawrence and I auditioned, we just chilled together. And so Martin got the role, but they wrote me in the role.
That's awesome.
And also at that time, Martin was just moving out here, I think from Washington, D.C. So we actually lived together. And so we was doing Nightmare on Elm, doing what's happening now. And we was living at home, so it was a beautiful reunion. To this day, Martin and Lawrence, we have never gotten into an argument. We just respect each other. I don't see him much, but when I do see him, it's like we just saw each other yesterday.
Right. Was that kind of a interesting experience, actually joining like what would technically be a legacy sequel series like that?
I didn't know that. I didn't know it at the time.
You didn't? Okay.
No, I had no clue of it at the time, what it was. I know that when I first moved to Los Angeles, I had this here manager was trying to get me. I didn't know what a manager was. And he told me that Ernest Thomas was up in his office and he sent me up there to meet Ernest Thomas. And that had to have been around 1979. I know exactly what it was. 1979. And so that's when I had met him. Who knew that 7 years later, I would be on a series with him.
Yeah. So interesting stuff.
Interesting, yes, very.
I mean, just how the world works sometimes. I was even talking about that with, I kind of made a new friend at work, and just, you kind of hit it off with people, you just kind of wonder, why is it that your relationship is what it is? Like why did we connect? Like, what is it specifically that we connected on? You can't really understand it, but I kind of have these thoughts every now and again. It's like, is it fate? Is it destiny? Like, what is the grand plan? Or what? I don't know. I question a lot of things like that, and it's fascinating to me. I like to ponder on that. Like, what is the purpose of this meeting down the line? And as you said with Ernest, you met him then, you didn't know it, but years later, it kind of formed itself into you being on that show. So
now, I do feel that, in my life, I don't know about anyone else's life. I'm only going to speak on my life. In my life, I've been very blessed. I know from which I've come. I know that it wasn't, I didn't, as I talked to you about how we didn't have running water. We had, we used to put plastic over the windows, for, when it got cold and stuff like this here. But there's another thing, is that I never felt that we didn't have much. I never felt that I wasn't loved or poor. And we was poor, but I never felt poor. Right. Because there was a sense of love in my home and a sense of love in the community. Now, it was, as I painted, it probably was a different type of love, but it was enough to know that I was protected. I knew that I was protected in a lot of things. I've done some crazy shit in my life, but when I look back and I see that, I've always been protected. And when I met these people along the way, I was protected. When I got the Marlon Brando workshop, there was a sense of protecting. When I got job at Universal as a security guard, I was protected. And there was a lot of, I like to call them land angels, that watched over me. And that's why I appreciate the fans. They saw something and they still see something in me that I didn't see in myself. They uplifted me and all of that. Now, I can't go and write each one of them a check who has helped me, but I can pass it on and give some child a scholarship or send some child to camp, buy someone a meal. And I feel like it's just not me doing it. It's all of us doing it. So that's what I believe. And that's how I feel, So, you know, I don't have no profound thing that happened to me.
Right.
I just know that I've been watched over
Right.
and guarded.
Les, I'm gonna ask one more time if you got anything else, because I got another avenue to go down.
I could ramble on about something, but I'm gonna save it actually for the closing of the show because
Okay.
it's just about how awesome Ken is.
I mean, we're all aware of it at this point. So what I want to talk about now is kind of one of the reasons you're here, and that is your book writing that you're doing now. As we kind of mentioned before, you've written for television, you've written movies. So what kind of led you down the path to book writing?
I just want to write my stories. I think we all have a story, and I want to tell my stories as a Black man. I want to tell my stories as a person,
Mm-hmm.
and some ideals that I've had in my life. And just sitting here talking to you, I came across, I had thought about that Nightmare on Elm Street thing, but I never digested it to the fact that I could see scenes of it and see
Mm-hmm.
more scenes of it. And I want to do it. I want to start jotting some things down and maybe send it out. So I just keep doing. I have to have a reason to wake up in the morning. I like to wake up with a thought in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what brought me to Socrates, this comic book. And so I've heard all the times how people say they want to see something fresh, they want to see something original, and they want to see something new. And that's why I came up with this wonderful story. And I started off as a comic book. I have written it as a feature film, and I have written it as a short film. And so one of the things I want to do first is I want to sell my comic book. So to everybody looking, please go buy the comic book. I need to sell about 6,000 comic books.
I mean, we'll
And
promote it right here. I mean, we got it.
6,000
So,
comic books. And just so you know, meet Socrates.
oh hey,
Very nice.
So, and it's a horror comic book. That's a family horror comic book, and it got a lot of unique things in there. It's going to be a sequel. I can promise you that it's going to be at least 3 sequels.
all right.
And so, this parrot, Socrates, he talks. For those who don't know, an African gray parrot is considered to be the brilliant geniuses of the bird world. So he talks, and I'm going to play the voice of Socrates. You gotta got me, boy, gotta got me. You hurt Socrates, Socrates hurt you back. And so this will be my first voiceover. And I first wrote, like I said, I first wrote it as a feature film, then I wrote it as a short film, and now I have written it as a comic book. And in March, I'm hoping to do a crowdfunding to help me raise the money because I'm going to do CGI. CGI is very expensive,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to be able to do it where the bird looks real. I don't want it to look like somebody got their hand up a bird ass talking. I want the bird to look real. I want this to be a real story. Socrates has a wonderful personality. He got a little Freddy Krueger in him. He got a little Jason in it, and he got a little Chucky in it. He got a little Chucky in it. He got all these. He has embodied all of these characters, and so you can get some wonderful posters when you order the book, and you're going to love it. And if you buy the comic book, I would personally sign it, and send it to you. Now, for the first 100 people to buy the comic book, I'm going to put your name in a raffle, and you have the opportunity of winning this in a raffle. Plus, you would win this, these
All
two
right.
great things. Both of them, they're valued at $500. So all you have to do is buy a comic book to be able to get one of those. And I'm also, the next thing after that, it's going to be a signature of everybody, including Freddy Krueger picture. which is valued at about
Wow.
$1,000.
Okay.
So you would also be included in that. So I'm doing everything I can to raise this money to get it. I'm not just asking for money. I want to give you something. To give you something with the comic book. I don't know if you all bought the comic book,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
So I hope you've read it and you like it. If you don't like it, don't say shit. But but I think you like it. So
So, what made you kind of go down the path of going from like writing as a feature film to eventually make it into a comic? Were you just trying to get a visualization on it for your film? So,
no,
were you kind of get an
I want
idea?
to come in on all areas. I
Okay.
want to do all areas. There's sometimes comic books become movies,
Hmm.
and sometimes movies become comic books. And so I wanted to do it all, and I want to do this independently. And so I want to do it before a studio come and buy it. They got to buy the rights of everything.
There you go.
So I want to be able to do this here movie, an independent movie, because I have some wonderful actors in it, as I was talking to you about the young man, but also the other people, young people that's in the film. They're all exceptional young actors, and we've been granted about 80 acres to film it in Allentown, Pennsylvania, or near Allentown, Pennsylvania. And we just need the funds to do it. And so I'm appealing to the comedy community to help me do this. If you buy the comic book, it will help me fund the movie. And then when I have the crowd funded, it will help me fund the rest of the movie. If you know anything about CGI, you know that it's extremely expensive.
Hmm.
And so, but I want to do it right.
So yeah, it must be where the $15 million went for all of Godzilla minus one. It's just on Godzilla.
It's what?
I said that must be where the $15 million went for Godzilla minus one. It was just for him.
No, yeah, but I see this here. All I need is I won't need all of that.
Yeah.
I just need a 10% of that. So I want to start off with a short film that I want to raise about 200 grand, to be
Hmm.
honest.
So I mean, I know you said that you were kind of looking away from puppets, but have you consider like don't know anybody who could do like minor puppeteering, something that would look a little bit more realistic? I mean, just for like more close-up stuff.
As long as it look real, because
Yeah.
already have gone out and shot an African gray in front of a green screen.
Hmm.
And so I'm going to have to reshoot that. So I'm going to be able to shoot some of those with a real parrot. And then, but when the bird is flying,
Hmm.
the claws grow out because his claws going to grow out when he get ready to kill you. His eyes going to turn red and he's going to talk to you like that. So, yes, so I want to be able to do that really, really good.
Right.
When he's flying at you, the claws are saying, gotta get me, shut it up, Socrates more.
Dig it. So, what was the actual impetus of this idea? Like the concept. Where did you come up with this for Socrates?
I don't know if this is a connection. I know that one of the first horror films that I saw was The Birds, and then I went on and had and actually met Alfred Hitchcock.
Sure.
And then one of the next movies, black movies I saw was Blackula
Oh.
by the William
Mhm.
Marshall. And so, and then the first horror film that I did was Nightmare on Elm Street, and that was Wes Craven. So I'm doing this in the spirit of William Marshall, Alfred Hitchcock, and Wes Craven. And so I've done other short films. This will be my third one. The last two I did win over 200 awards for my directing,
Nice.
but this is one that I think that I wanted to do in honor of the horror community.
You're right. Right.
Because people may know me from Rosewood, they may know me from Morton, they may know me from all of those wonderful opportunities that I had as an actor, but it is the horror community that really put me out in the limelight. So I want to give back, and I want to give them back something original, something new, something fresh. And I think this is the time because I think they're tired of seeing the remakes. I
Hmm.
want to see something fresh. And I think there's a poster that says, sorry folks, there's a new villain in town.
Hmm.
And so that's where we're going to go.
I've definitely looked at those posters on your website, and the artwork is phenomenal. Like, I
Yes.
love what they've done with those posters. Like,
Each one of them was done by a different artist, and even one in the UK,
nice.
you know. And so, and so there's some wonderful posters. And again, whatever you buy, I will personally sign it. And and then when it get down to that the gift, I would like to call each one of you personally and say thank you. And so I'm doing whatever I can, let you know that I do appreciate it. What I'm trying to do. Everything that I've done have had some connection to giving back. And so I just have found a way to do this. So in a way, I'm giving back to those who gave back to me, even in this horror world.
And we've talked about this on the show many times. The horror community are probably some of the best people that you will meet,
Yes.
because most of the time we all feel like outcasts. We feel like we don't belong somewhere. And then within this community, we found our people. And you don't worry about who you are, what you've done, anything, just your religion, your race, doesn't matter. You love the same thing I love, therefore we are connected. We bond over these silly little movies that some people just don't get, but that's okay because we get them. We love them. And everyone has that respect for it. It doesn't matter how, you could have some that are really, really good or really, really terrible, but at the end of the day, you love them all the same. And I think that's the beauty of it.
And which I love to subway into Socrates. And that's the thing about Socrates. Socrates is really a kid.
Yeah.
He was cursed years ago by a voodoo king back during slavery who sent his young boy's pet bird to watch over him because he had been captured. And so Socrates, the spirit of Socrates, goes and watch over his son. And through the centuries, he has been watching over all the horrors of the world. And so the last guardian that had Socrates saw what he was becoming. He was becoming revengeful. He was becoming angry. And so he thought he killed him and buried him. So these here young college students who think that this is an urban myth went and found Socrates and opened the little box up and released him. So he's out for revenge now for everybody. Nobody's safe. He can't get the actual people that harmed him, but he can get the ancestors of them. So he's revengeful. He's not evil. He's like revengeful. So that means that all the slave owners, he after their descendants, and he's after the slaves who wouldn't help other slaves. Nobody is safe. Absolutely nobody is safe, but he's loved. He knows how to hide. He loves children. He saves children. He protects children. All Socrates wants is love. And that is the thing about him. That's why you're going to fall in love with him. But when you cross him, that's when he's out for the kill. So he's going to be everybody's hero.
How long have you had this idea for this character?
I'd say about a couple of years.
Couple of years.
But a couple of years. I've had, because I've had other ideals, but this is something that I think everybody would love. This is what everybody's going to love, and every country is going to love Socrates because, I had written a story about a bird before called The Great Migration, but this is one that I wanted to write because of, one time I went in a store and they had an African gray parrot and he was just looking at me. And when I got up close to the case, he just said, like, get back, and this is real. And so that night, I just imagined that I saw that bird in my window and it was scary. And I said, this would be a great story. And this is what I wanted to write, because this is a horror film that everybody can relate to. And with kids, I didn't know that there were so many people that did not like birds until I wrote Socrates.
I had a friend in grade school. He was absolutely terrified, and I didn't understand it.
And then there are some who love birds.
Mm-hmm.
So Socrates, I think, is a hit all the way around. I think now, if you can believe Chucky,
Sure.
which is a doll, you can definitely believe Socrates. The only thing is that he talks too. He can sing, he can dance, he can do all of that. Socrates is got me.
So you said that you had, like, I don't want you to go into too many details with the sequel ideas, but did you have those ideas initially when you were writing the story, or were they something that just kind of formed after you kind of got the first feature written?
When I got the first feature written, at the end of the comic book, you can almost see what the story is going to be. And so I just think I have this imagination now that when I go to the horror convention, people gonna have Socrates up there. I already got some pins of Socrates. Yeah.
There we go.
Socrates. I don't know how to do all this. This is all new to me. Socrates. So it's some wonderful things that's coming up with Socrates. I think this one says, "You want some love? Come and get it, Socrates." Yes, so I've been working on this here. It's going to be big, but I need these horror things. Buy a copy,
Yes,
and I
absolutely.
want to sign it because it's going to be a classic. I promise you.
Well, we're definitely going to push it around here. Like I said, I got my copy. It is signed, people, so I can attest.
Yeah, I've got my copy as
And
well.
I've read it.
Yep. And I want to say too, going into Socrates, when we had originally talked, and you brought it up, and I looked on your website and everything, and started reading about what Socrates was and everything, and then getting into the comic, my interest was piqued. It really was. I sat there and I went, this bird has seen the evils of the world. And as a horror fan, and as part of the horror community, and coming back kind of to that, in a way, I feel like Socrates does represent the community as a whole. And I think knowing that you've written it, and talking to you here, knowing about Kincaid, I feel like Socrates is sort of the best of all of those worlds. He brings forth part of the horror community as being misunderstood. It's not so much that he's inherently evil or inherently good. He just wants to be loved,
Yes.
but he has seen some of the uglies of the world, and he's probably been persecuted. He's seen persecution. He's seen the negative side of things. And honestly, when I got done reading the comic, I'm sitting there and I'm saying to myself, I need to know what happens next.
Thank you.
Because there's this overwhelming urge to know what's going to happen with Socrates, because I do think Socrates is a very interesting written character. Giving a bird personality like that, the only time I've ever seen a bird with personality is like Disney movies. So to see one that is more of a horror aesthetic, there's something very interesting about that. And I love that you bring up that he's not, he just wants to be loved. He's not evil. And I see that. I see him as being this being who has to be vengeful when it comes down to it, because of the pain and the things that he's been through. And to me, I've seen it at the conventions, at the horror movie conventions and things. You see a lot of people there who are maybe looked at in a negative light, maybe because of the way that they dress, the way that they look, or the way that they act. And they could be vengeful.
Yes.
But they have reached out and they have found a community of people that are like them, that support them, that love them, that give them something that they're not getting somewhere else. And to me, looking at Socrates, and especially having this conversation with you, it sort of shows through that you're creating this character that is sort of personifying quite a bit, as far as we all just ultimately want to be loved. And sometimes life is cruel. And especially if you are like Socrates, an immortal spirit that has seen all of these horrible things, it only makes sense that you would be vengeful. But the fact that, and I don't want to spoil the comic for anybody out there listening, but the fact that you end it the way that you end it shows another layer to this character. And I'm interested to see what all tricks Socrates has up his bird sleeves, I guess I could say.
Yes, I'm gonna use that.
But no, I really wanted to say that, because especially talking to you about it, you can see that this could be something that definitely takes off in the community, because the community could see that Socrates really represents something bigger. The fact that some of us are just misunderstood, some of us may be outcasts, some of us have seen things. We don't know everyone's story.
Right.
And sometimes if we take the time to know everybody's story, we'll learn that maybe some people just want to be loved, just like Socrates just wants to be loved. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No,
Socrates is his own world.
Well, the last question I want to ask you, Ken, if I wanted to know if there are any characters or any narratives, IP that maybe that you would love to act in, or anything that you would ever thought about writing on or about, just something that maybe is passionate to you that you haven't had the opportunity to tackle in your career.
I don't know. I love the work. I love the work. I don't care to be in the starring role.
Sure.
I love the supporting roles. I'm okay. Now, don't get me wrong. Now, if somebody offer me a starring role, I'm gonna take it. But I love the challenge of the supporting roles and helping and being a part of it and going in doing my work and leaving. I love to. I want to play a villain.
All right.
I want to play a villain that everybody can hate. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm so excited about doing the voice of Socrates. It'll be my first voiceover, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so that's it. I just believe it. I love stage as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I also did stand-up comedy. So that's another variable that I can give Socrates. I wrote comedy. I won my awards for writing drama, and and I did stand up as I stated. So I'm able to put all of these ingredients in Socrates. He's funny, he's adorable, he's lovable. You can rub him the wrong way, and he's not to be played with. He got everything there. Like I said, all your top villains, Socrates. And I will give you one secret that you'll learn in part two. He can infiltrate your mind.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
We'll leave that seed right there for everybody.
Okay, yeah.
And we'll just leave it at that because we won't spoil nothing. Because definitely want people to go out and get this book for sure.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. One of my good buddy Andros, who's in part of 4. He just wrote this wonderful song. You got it. I put it on my website. It's called "Get Out of My Head," that made me think about Socrates.
It actually is a very good song. I have you on Facebook, and I saw that you had posted it up on there, so I clicked it. It's
The world doesn't know him for who he really is as an artist yet, but he wrote this here wonderful song, and I'm about to ask him, can I use it in Socrates? Because Socrates he's gonna have so much power, and to see who he is, he's gonna be smart. Okay, so I was about to say something, but I'm gonna leave it right here.
Yeah, Ken, I gotta say, I really admire your attitude toward your career and your approach to everything, because no matter what has happened in your life, you still push on, you're still creative, you haven't let it put you in any position where you're like, I'm not, it doesn't matter. This doesn't concern me anymore. You found ways to navigate the avenues to make your life and everyone around you better and beneficial in some way, because as you said, you're giving back. The Giving Back Corporation, what you're doing with that, you've really crafted some way of just paying it forward in every sense of the word. And sometimes, it's difficult. I'll even say from personal experience, you just get in your head about things. You're like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And then you find your reason again, and it comes back, and you're like, this is why I'm doing. And
that comes from you.
Yeah.
And I say that when I say not just you personally, that comes from you, the fans. You didn't give up on me. So how dare I would give up on myself?
Right.
So no matter what you throw at me, my friend, I have to throw it back at you, because at the end of the day, we all are a circle of life. Wherever I am, I'm coming back around from what you gave me. And I do believe that. Now, I can be an asshole, don't get me wrong. But, But that's what it is. And so I don't want to lay down until it's time for me to make my transition. I don't want to lay down and give up because there's too many people out there that believe in me. And you, the fans, are one of them. So I thank you.
Les, do you have anything else? Because I'm just like...
It's hard to follow all that, but I do want to piggyback off of something that you said, Stephen, and I want to say it to Ken. It's simply we've had some guests on this show, and we've both met a lot of celebrities, but I just want to say that you are one of the most humble and sincere people I think I have ever had the pleasure of talking to. And I believe in Nightmare 3 they may have mentioned it. I think Nancy might have mentioned you being a teddy bear. You're rough when you need to be, and like you said, you can be an asshole. I think we all can be. But I really can see it now. You are Kincaid is Ken Sagoes, and I am completely down for that because you are just an astonishingly amazing human being, and I just wanted to say that to you.
I thank you.
Yeah, it has been an absolute pleasure and honor for you being on the show today, talking to us, our humble little podcast. But
may I ask one more request?
Yes, absolutely.
Please invite me back to your humble little podcast.
That door will never close.
Anytime at all.
That is an open invitation, my friend.
Thank you.
So, Ramblers, if you're not a fan of Ken Sagoes before, surely to God you are now. And if you want to give him praise, we can do this on all the social media platforms. You know where we are, at Horror Ramblings. Wherever you do your social medias, we're on that one platform that no one cares about anymore. It's collapsing, but we're there. So if you want to tweet at us, or whatever they're calling it over there, do it. Say, we love you, Ken. We're going to share it all to him. We'll just screenshot it, and then Les can just text him all the screenshots, and we'll pass along the love. If you got more to say, a tweet's just not going to cut it, send us an email, and we'll forward it to Ken, and then he can read it for himself.
Thank you. And I will respond.
And he will respond. See? You can't get much better than that. That's more than most. If you want to discuss horror with like-minded individuals, join our Facebook group or join us in the Ramblers room on Discord. And you can even find us on Instagram to see an assortment of horror images. I'm going to have to find a bevy of Kincaid-style pictures that we can post up when this episode comes up. If you're feeling generous, you want to support the show, head on over to patreon.com/pencil-and-paper-productions. You can help the show grow by leaving a 5-star review on your favorite podcasting app and tell your friends to find us on their favorite platform as well, even though some are collapsing. But that's okay, because there's plenty to go around. And if you happen to be using Spotify, take a look at our weekly questions and polls. Let us know what you think. Finally, if you prefer a central hub, pencilpaperproductions.com/horror-ramblings. Links are in the show notes down below. Ken, where would you like everyone to come find all your beautiful stuff?
You can go to thesagoescompany.com. 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 And if you can't find it at, message it to me and I will send it to you on Facebook.
And we will put a link down below for anybody. If you just need easy access, check out those show notes. It'll say the Sagoes Company with the link right there. Click on it. Go get yourself a copy of Socrates, or maybe some of his other books too, if you want to go check out more of his narrative work.
Thank you.
And then whenever you get the crowdfunding project going along, we'll fire it up and we'll tell everybody where to find it.
You gotta love me.
You gotta love me.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. All right. Goodbye.
Remember, guys, stay spooky out there.
This has been the Horror Ramblings podcast. Join us next time for even more.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.